hello everybody. Thanks for coming to this little panel on Spanish literary fiction in English language translation, where we will be presenting the book Antón Mallick Wants to Be Happy by Nicolás Casariego with the author and Rohan Kamicheril from Words Without Borders. I want to thank Rohan very especially for taking part in this. I guess most of you here will already know about Words Without Borders, but just in case, as you may know, it's a wonderful organization with a magazine. They publish, I think that's monthly. They've been celebrating their 10th anniversary this year, and they are really doing marvelous things to spread the word out about world literature. So congratulations for that. Just before I leave you with the author and Rohan talking on this novel, which is one of my favorite ones, I just wanted to let you know very briefly about our publishing house. Hispabooks is a new independent publishing house focused in Spanish contemporary literary fiction in English language translation. We released our first titles only just last summer. We have now 10 in our list of titles, and we hope to be publishing about one book per month. It's all literary fiction coming from Spain, from the best authors there right now, very enticing. So I do hope you enjoy now this one, and that you keep an eye on what we release from now on. Thank you very much.
We're incredibly indebted to Ana Perez and everyone at Hispabooks, and I'm delighted to be here with Nicolás. We've worked with him before, as I've mentioned twice already, and I'm delighted to be working with him again. His new book, Antón Mallick Wants to Be Happy, is part of the debut list at Hispabooks. I hope you'll all pick it up. And Nicolás is the author of 5 novels, which include Antón Mallick Wants to Be Happy. His novel, Cazadores de Luz, was a finalist for the Premio Nadal in 2005. He is also the author of numerous children's books and short story collections. His stories have been published in several anthologies, and his travel writing has appeared in the magazines of the Spanish newspapers El País and El Mundo. He has co-written 3 feature films, including Intruders, which was directed by Juan Carlos Frenadillo and starring Clive Owen. Nicolás, thank you so much for being here.
Well,
I wanted to start with this book. So, Antón Mallick is the protagonist of this book, and his putative aim during the course of this book is to figure out why he's not happy. So he's not happy, and in the beginning you don't know why. It's sort of this amorphous thing. And as the book progresses, you know, he explores it through readings. He reads a lot of self-help, which he's very dismissive of. He reads a lot of philosophy, some of which he's very dismissive of, and some of which he really loves. And as the book progresses, the concerns that are, you know, the sort of legitimate concerns that are making him unhappy start to take a little more shape, and they give the plot a lot of, I don't know, sort of motive force. It's a really very special book, and I wanted to start by talking about the character of Antón Mallick, who is very interesting because he has this very, well, not odd, I guess, but very particular aim of exploring happiness, which is, you know, intriguing. But he also has this interesting backstory of being a Spaniard who has a very strong connection to his Hungarian heritage. He also sells specialty insurance. This is sort of a thing that he does. He insures satellites and talks about, you know, the weird things that he has to insure and how that fascinates him. So I was wondering whether you would start by talking a little bit about this search for happiness and also where the character of Antón Mallick came from.
Okay, thank you. I will start to thank the BEA to invite me, to thank you for having this conversation with me, and to thank Anna from Hispabooks to publish this book. And about the main character, well, the title is very, it tells you the story. I mean, Antón Mallick wants to be happy, as everyone, no? As everyone here, and it's not very original to. Everybody wants to be happy, and he does the same. And I wanted to do a character common in a way, but not common in the way he's looking for happiness. No? because everybody who is looking for happiness has to confront their problems, and him in a really, for me, in a naive way, he tries to find the answer for happiness in the books from philosophers, from the Greeks till the modern ones, and also in help-aid books. And for me, it was interesting, but that's the thing that many people does, no? When they are in the airport and they are not very happy, and well, there is a book there, and well, and I want to be happy, so I will buy this book, and in 2 or 3 months, I will be the happier person in the world. And for me, this book, I mean, I started to think about a story in relation with happiness, because I think in our societies, we are so pressed to be happy all the time, so pressed to be smiling all the time, so pressed to be, in a way, faking, that for me is so depressing that I wanted to write about someone who is not all the time crying, not all the time weeping, but he tries hard to be happy and to find an answer to that. And finally, it's not a spoiler, but finally, I mean, almost nobody finds happiness. In a longer term, no. But he confronts phantoms. At the end, happiness is a phantom, another one that they are selling this phantom all the time to us. And finally, the phantoms you find is your past and your origins and your family and the things you are. No? Because in a way, we are just a life past. No? And that's Antón Mallick.
What I find really compelling about the book, too, is as we've been discussing, I think this might give people a false impression of the book. This guy, he's looking for happiness, he can't find it, but actually, in spite of the fact that he never really gets ecstatically happy at the end, there's not this huge revelation like, oh, this is the book. You know, if you all want to get happy, read this book, and you know, after that, you will be happy. You know, there's no answer like that in the book. But in spite of that, you know, it sort of returns you to the details of what makes this guy's life work, and that, you know, while it may not make you ecstatic, really gives you an appreciation for how life works and how families work. And I want to use that as a stepping point into my next question, which is about familial happiness, because that's a big part of the book. It's not happiness in this very abstract sense. It's about Anton's relationship with his family, which is fraught, to say the least, and how they sort of navigate these sort of tricky bypasses of getting along with each other. You know, there's the old Tolstoy saw about all happy families are happy in the same way, but unhappy families, you know, that's something worth talking about.
Yeah.
So can you talk about this idea of happy families in literature? Do you think that's something worth pursuing, or?
Well, family in literature is one of the biggest themes, no? And for me, it's also a theme because, as you maybe, I have a very strange family, no? As everybody has, and a little bit eccentric. And I never wrote in the books I have written before this one. I never wrote about family, maybe in omission because in some books there were no family, and I wanted to try that it would be one of the themes, no, of the novel. And I find a sentence from a philosopher, George Santayana, who said that family is nature's masterpiece. And for me, it's I laugh a lot with this sentence. And in a way, I wanted to also to try to write a novel with humor and with humor about all the strange relationships that happens in families. And in Antón Mallick, in the main character, he's a Spaniard, but at the same time he has a strange origin because he comes from a Hungarian immigrant, and also his family is spread all around the world. So in a way, I wanted to talk about families, but not about mine, but about, in a way, something a little bit universal, and about people who is a stranger in his own family. And I think when you talk with everybody is in a way a stranger in his own family. And that's the way that Antón Mallick rules the problems he has.
And I thought it was interesting that you mentioned Santayana, because throughout the book there are these sort of little excerpts where he talks about the reading that he's doing, and he has a brother and a sister, and his relationship with the two of them is very different. He feels much more, he's much closer with his sister, and she gives him Nietzsche and Kierkegaard. Actually, I'm not sure if there's Kierkegaard, but things that he thinks are sort of commensurate with his vision of how he should be approaching happiness. And his brother gives him a lot of self-help books. He's a psychiatrist. And so I was wondering, sort of running the gamut from Santayana to these self-help books. Did you read a lot of Santayana, and did you read a lot of self-help books?
Yes, the good thing when you're a writer is you have to read, and that's maybe the greatest thing about being a writer, because you never know if you will still be writing, but you will be still reading. No? And yes, for that book I read a lot. And it was fantastic because I read before I start to write the novel, so half a year I was just reading, which is great. And what I wanted is like this character, which is not common, but in a way is common because he's not like a very good reader. He's not someone who is very, very cultivated. And I wanted someone whose approach to classics in philosophy and literature were in a way fresh, not from the essays, not from the other people readings, but for himself. And as he's kind of a little bit clever and witty, the things he tells about these books are fresh for the people who has already read them. No?
And you did mention the self-help books.
Well, the self-help books, and I have always wanted to read one of them, but I never bought one. And this was a great opportunity for me because I think they are incredible books, so cynical, so terrible, and so they give people like a electroshock, which is for 2-3 months if they do the rules they say, they will improve their life. In a way, maybe they could improve their lives if their lives are really, really bad. But finally, they are terrible. They are against friendship. They are so selfish. And for me, the people who is really who think that kind of books is helping them to be better, I think they are helping them to be monsters, no? And Antón, he finds it, no? He finds it when we read this. I understand people who buy these books because they are needy, as I'm needy, everybody, we are all needy. But in a way, if you read deep that books, it's not good, not healthy.
Well, I think what's interesting too is you were talking about Antón's approach to these things, which is often very funny, but he has a very acerbic wit. He's very cynical, and I think in a weird twist, actually, that makes him very relatable, because although he has a sort of world-weary approach to a lot of these things, he's very observant. He's very astute, and so I think that sort of disaffection makes him see the world a little more clearly. But I wanted to talk about humor, because that in itself can be very deflating if it's just like, oh, this is what's wrong with that, and this self-book is really terrible. But in spite of all of his problems with the world, he manages to be quite funny. So is humor something that you try actively to incorporate into your books?
Yes, it's also maybe the first time in a novel that I use humor. And as you know, you can be very funny in a conversation or in a bar with a glass of beer, but when you're writing, it's something different. And I wanted to try humor because humor is it's not also, I mean, it's not just funny and, no, and entertaining, but it's also a weapon, no? And it's a weapon to confront the world, no? And how is that Antón Mallick uses humor, no? to confront the world and to confront the problems he has, no? And some smiles are, I mean, are terrible, but usually if you are with someone who smiles a lot and who is funny, it's better, no? And it's better life for the other people who are around him, no? So, as you know, Leopardi, the Italian poet, said also that laughing and smiling was the most important weapon in the world, no? And if you were in a party and you wanted someone to look at you, no? The only thing you had to do is to still laughing with the other person who is beside you, and then all the people will come. All the people will come with you, no? And in Spain, usually we are very solemn, and I hate solemnity. And in the Anglo-Saxon world and literary world, they are more used to use humor and to use humor in a deep way, no? And that was something I was interested in trying to do.
And because among the writers that Antón discusses too, occasionally he mentions not a humor so much, but a sort of the same sort of Catholic view of the world that appeals to him in some of them. Were there any of these writers who he talks about in the book that sort of you thought represented what you felt when you were writing the book?
No, but there are writers there that I like very much, and I don't know if I'm a little weird, but for example, many writers that for other people are really depressing, for me I laugh a lot with them, and I feel that their intelligence is really makes me alive, really, no? For example, typical ones, I mean, like Kafka or Nietzsche or even Kierkegaard in another way, because he's much more poetical and others, no? But in a way, reading and for him reading things that like Cioran and everyone that they are pessimistic writers, but in a way how they are so clever and observant about life, it makes them when you read them to be really alive and in a way for maybe 10 minutes you are with the universe and you are really happy, no? Because of them.
The other thing, just to return to the plot of the book a little bit, is the fact that underneath all the events that he's going through, it's very, sort of first-person narrative-driven in a way. He's always very present. But as the book progresses, these little bits of his history sort of start percolating to the top. And I was wondering, because there's two elements to it. One is that he himself is circumspect about talking about his past. He doesn't want to say, oh, I'm so sad, this is what's happened to me. And I don't want to give away any spoilers, but there are a lot of things that have happened to him. And he doesn't bring them up, but through the course of the book, they organically sort of become part of the narrative. So there's that aspect to how they're not yet disclosed. But there's also a lot of secrets. His family is constantly lying to each other and, withholding things from each other. And I think it creates a really interesting tension. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit, secrets and omissions and things like that.
Yes, I mean, family is also about secrets, and it's also about those legends built by families. And we are in Christmas, all of us talking about the same stories, and usually there are stories that never happened in a way, and they were rewritten so many times, no? And in a way, as I said, Antón is looking for happiness, which is a phantom, and finally the phantoms are in their family, in front of him, and they are the phantoms he has to confront. And in this novel, I wanted to do maybe a little bit pathetical, maybe funny, but he's as everybody of us we are. He's a fighter trying to survive in life. So he does things, and he tries things, and he's always in the mood. No? And the structure of the book is a little bit complicated, but I wanted to do a complicated structure, but to do simple to the reader, to go with the two different things, with the present and all the things he does really in the present, and all the ideas, no? So this is the other thing who advance at the same time in the book, no? And I was very, very interested in find a rhythm and to find a book with simplicity in reading, no? Which was not difficult to read it, even if it has some ideas inside, no?
And going back to the family theme, I thought there was, there's some very big themes in this book too. Happiness. What does it all mean? But there's also this sort of classic motif of fathers and sons, because all throughout the book, there's Antón, who has sort of a strained relationship with his own father, and then early on in the book, I don't think this is a spoiler, but this woman comes up to him in a video store and says, "I'm having your baby." Like, he doesn't know who she is. And then she disappears. And this animates a lot of the book, because he's like, this woman appeared and he just sort of blacks out. And then he has to try and find her. And this happens right at the beginning of the book. And, so there's this phantom, like you say, of like the idea of fathership. But it's very elusive because he doesn't know where this woman is. And his own father has been absent for a lot of his life. I was wondering if you could talk about the force of that. Why is that such a compelling theme? Not just for you.
No,
but
for everybody. I mean, family is so important to us, and for Spaniards, as you know, is very important family. I mean, they are, in a way, we are a little bit different from the United States families, because here people, when they are 18 years old, they go to study there or whatever, and they don't see their families a lot. No? And for us, it's a much more important thing. And for him, for Antón Mallick, one of his problems is that his family hasn't been with him in his life, no? And also it's interesting because in family, I don't know if for you it's the same, but you're always talking and talking and talking, but you talk about nothing, no? And that's what happens to Antón, and it's like a funny thing. He's talking with his mother, but his mother never listens to him what he's saying. He's talking with his brother, and his brother, he doesn't give a shit about what he's saying. No? And so it's always a problem, because he's always confronting phantoms. No? Even if family, in a way, is the people who is near us. No?
And the other thing, again, going back to family, this is all about family, is that the family is there's a very contemporary cast to it. They live all over the world. The brother Zoltan lives in Madrid, just like Antón, but his sister lives in Cambridge, and his family lives in Hudson, New York. So there's a very international cast to the book, and just to the plot too. And I know that you've spent a fair amount of time over here, and your English is very good.
Thank you.
So what do you think when you read the translation of the book? Were you very involved with Thomas Bunstead?
I was very lucky. I mean, I was very lucky because the translator, I think, he's very good, and also the publisher Anna, who is here, was very concerned with the translation. So when I read it, I was just very, very happy. I mean, and that's all. And thank you very much. I don't speak English as good as you say. But I have traveled a bit, and I wanted my character to travel and to be someone who can be a Spaniard, but at the same time he could be, I don't know, a German or an Englishman. I mean, in a way, now for writers as me, I'm now 43. I have read a lot, and usually. Now I think that writers we have our own recipe in reading, and a recipe can be for so many different literatures and countries. So I wanted to write a book in which I didn't want like a Spanish guy in Spain thinking in the Spanish things, because finally it will be there because I am Spanish, no? But in a way he's like a universal character, in a way, because now it's very sad that there are so many things that are the same in the States than in Madrid, than in Lisbon, there are Starbucks everywhere, and well, that's sad. But at the same time, we have many things in common with our lives, which for me is very interesting, because speaking about Occident, if I speak with people from many different countries, in a way I can understand them a lot, and my life is not very far from theirs, no? And where they buy, where they go, what they see in TV, the films that they go to, and that's Antón Mallick. In a way, he's not so different from people from other big cities in Europe or whatever.
And I like what you said about the fact that you wanted him to be, identifiably Spanish, but not solely Spanish. And I like the fact that he's, sort of ostensibly kind of very Hungarian too. He talks a lot about Hungary and how there's this sort of mythical forefather who he writes all these letters to in his diary, whose name is Vidor. And I was wondering what element you thought that brought to the equation. The fact that he's Hungarian, I think is a very large part of the book. It creates this mythology of where he's come from, what he wants in life, what it means to be a good man. All of this comes from this, this sort of figure who he writes all these letters to. So what was the fascination with Hungary? I think it's very effective, but where did that come from?
Well, it comes from his name, Mallick. I have a brother who was a poet, very good one, and he had one of his books was called Mallick's Voice. So for me, it was like a homage to take that name, no? And then I Googled it, and I realized it was used in Hungary and also in the Arab countries. So I said, let's take Hungary. And for a Spaniard, Hungary is so far. I mean, so far, their language is very complicated, so nobody in Spain speaks Hungarian. And well, there are many authors who are published in Spain. You can read them. But in a way, Hungary is nothing for us. No? For me, that was interesting thing. First of all, I had to read a lot about Hungary. I went there, and well, it was something to learn, and something in a way strange. No? To have in Spain Hungarian ancestors is really strange. Here in the States, there have been a lot, like from so many other countries, and in cinema and everything, there are many, Hungarian very famous people, but in Spain it's nothing. Hungary.
Apart from the insights into Hungary, the book, I really highly recommend it. I think you'll enjoy it a great deal, and I think it may go some way towards making you happier. And either way, I think you will enjoy it very much. So thank you, Anna, and thank you, Nicolás, very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for coming.